Welcome to another episode of the MMA Lock-Cast. I'm your host, Manpreet, aka MMA Lock of the Night, and your boy on Twitter at MMA LOTN. This week, we are still in the studio. I know it's been a couple episodes since I've been in Big Rob's studio, but there's just been a lot of scheduling conflicts. Your boy's prepping for a wedding, so I've just been busy planning that as well. And on top of all the school stuff, it's tough to get down to my boy Big Rob's place, but thankfully that's the reason I've put the studio together. So I'm able to still pump out some episodes for you guys in a timely fashion. Next week, though, 150,000%, I'll be back at Big Rob's place. I'll be calling in a guest as I normally do for pay-per-view episodes. And I have a pretty special guest lined up for you guys, and I can't wait for you guys to see who it is. But I'm excited to get that episode going as well. But it feels like forever since I've done a fucking Lock-Cast episode, so I might be a little clunky in terms of getting my shit back together. But I'm here for you guys, and I appreciate everybody always checking out the episode as they always do. Even during this unfortunate and shitty little stretch that I've been on myself. Yeah, it's been a little rough. Let's put it that way. So currently on a 3-event losing skid, which is really, really shitty. The last one was minus 0.11 units, so I was down very, 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 very minimally, I should say, but still down nonetheless. So let's quickly go over that. We are here to go over, obviously, UFC DC, which is headlined by Alistair, Overeem, and Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Very excited for that. You know, it came together pretty short notice due to the unfortunate events that's been happening with Walt Harris and his family. Prayers go out to him, very tough time. And I'm still pretty pissed off regarding that. It's such a sad story, and to have such careless and fucked up people out there, it's very enraging, which is why I'm still pissed off. So I really hope that they come down hard with the death penalty for this guy, or even if he's locked up for life with no chance at parole, I'm happy with that as well. But fuck that guy, and fuck these people that are just absolutely inhumane and just ridiculous. But let's get back onto the lighter note. Let's get into this to this episode, but first and foremost, let's get into my recap of the last betting event. It feels like ages ago since UFC Sao Paulo, which is the last event that we had. Again, like I said, ended off minus 0.11 units, very, very small loss. So let's go through it. My dog of the night play, I had 1 unit at plus 252 on Paul Craig over Shogun Rua. If you guys watched the Deciding Splits show, you guys saw that we actually had that fight scored a draw with a 10-8 round for Paul Craig. Regardless, they had it scored very differently, but still came out with a draw. So that ends up being a push. We get our 1 unit back. And then let's go to our lock of the night play, which was Antonio Hoyo and Andre Muniz under 2.5 rounds. Oh wow, I just realized that my bet MMA tips actually has it screwed up. So I wasn't down 0.11 units. It was actually minus 2.67 units. I'm not 100%. It was a loss. Let's just put it that way. I had 4 units in total at minus 117 and minus 141-ish. Had that averaged out on Antonio Hoyo and Andrew Muniz to go under 2.5 rounds. I don't know what the fuck to say about that. I thought one of them was definitely going to be able to get the finish, whether it was Muniz gassing from continuously trying to take a Hoyo down and then a Hoyo capitalizing, but I really overestimated the amount of gas tank that a Hoyo was going to be able to have, going into the later rounds of this fight. Very unfortunate loss there. And then I had the only winner of the night. I had a 1.5 unit parlay at plus 110 for James Krause, who was originally supposed to be my lock of the night play, but I was just wooed so much more by the Antonio Hoyo and Andre Muniz under that I managed to stay away from that, but still bet Krause in a parlay with Silva de Andrade. That profited for 1.64 units. And then I had my Patreon Hail Mary parlay, which just whiffed by my lock of the night play. I went four out of 5 picks I got right. And it was very, very shitty that it ended up being my lock of the night play, which busted that parlay. So all in all, minus 2.6 whatever units it was. Very unfortunate night there. But we got 3 events left for 2019. I know I'm going to still be ending up in the red here at the end of this calendar year, but hoping to scrap back a little bit and, start the momentum of the upswing and start getting my shit back together. This 3-week break or 2-week break that we've had recently has been very, very helpful for me. Just getting my shit together, clearing my mind of MMA as much as possible in terms of studying and fight tape and all that shit. But here we are, we're back in the thick of things. 3 straight events, and then we got another longer break after the Korea event at the end of the year. And then we got 3 or 4 weeks without MMA. Going to be crazy, but I'm definitely going to be taking advantage of that time as well. Maybe take 1 week off and then just get back into it and just start trying to plot ahead. If you guys remember following my Twitter account, I did state that I would be, for my Patreon members, I'm going to start putting out early odds, or at least projected odds that I think odds should be for fights that were just announced, just so that when odds do drop, my Patreon members are able to hop on any lines that seem a little bit too out of whack or much different from what I thought. I'll try to get my tape in as quickly as possible so that I can actually give legitimate odds in terms of what I truly think they will be, even with the type of research that I put in. And I think that'll be very beneficial for anybody that hops onto the Patreon page and helps your boy out. So we got that coming up. All right, let's get into the event that's going to be happening this coming week in UFC DC. Overall, from top to bottom, a pretty fun card. Mahmoud Muradov finally coming back, a decent test in Trevor Smith for him. Bryce Mitchell versus Matt Sales. That fight's been sticking around the even money pretty much since the odds have dropped, and it's a fun fight. Thiago Alves versus Tim Mead should be a great, great fight. Rob Font against Ricky Simone. That's one of my very, very much anticipated fights for this. Cody Stamann against Yadong Song. Fucking amazing fight there. Aspen Ladd trying to reclaim her spot in the top of the bantamweight division after her falter against GDR back in December or November. No, sorry. Back in August, I want to say, it's been a while. And then Stefan Struve against Ben Rothwell, that's a whatever fight. Cynthia Calvillo against Marina Rodriguez is a phenomenal fucking fight. And then we'll get to see if Overeem's chin will still be intact when he fights hard-hitting Jairzinho Rozenstruik, who's been killing it in his UFC career and has a very stiff test in him against Alistair Overeem here. So very excited for the card overall. I think there's some prime spots here for us to choose from in terms of betting. Like I've been saying in past episodes or the last at least month or so, I'm going to try tightening my ship up a little bit more. One lock of the night play, one dog of the night play. I'll try to give you guys as much information and how I feel on certain fights, even if I'm not betting them, and if I would bet them if I wasn't as strict with my betting process as I am now. So just listen out for that. But for this upcoming card, and probably for the rest of the year, I'll only be doing one lock of the night play and one dog of the night play. Just fucking tighten the ship up, try to get back on track, and just fucking, I was killing it at the beginning of the year, and I knew that I was, very good at this and could make this a very profitable venture, but I start to get swayed by some value and I start to get swayed by other shit. I'm just trying to block out all the outside noise and just hone in on the spots that I'm really, really confident in and just banging on them, and especially the underdog picks, looking for that one that I'm really confident in and then pulling the trigger on them. So I have a couple of spots here that I'm very excited to pull the trigger on. I was a little bit hesitant in terms of what I would make the lock of the night play for this weekend's event. I have 2 in mind that I'm still kind of battling out, but I think I'm leaning one more than the other. Thankfully for you guys, I'll be going over both of those fights as they're both on the main card. But yeah, I think there's 2 very prime spots for lock of the night plays, but I'll only be pulling the trigger on one of them. So as I've been doing since November or so, I'll be giving you guys quick picks on my on the prelim fights. I'll be dropping MMA Lock-Cast Plus episodes on the Patreon page for anybody that wants to, get a little bit more in depth on these prelim fights. I will be dropping for sure one for Rob Font versus Ricky Simone, as well as Bryce Mitchell versus Matt Sales. Those are 2 I'll definitely be dropping within this week. And I might do another one. If you guys hop on the Patreon page and suggest another one, I'll be more than happy to get into another fight for you guys. But in terms of this podcast itself, I'll only be getting more balls deep or in depth on the main card fights. But if you guys want that prelim shit, you guys gotta, see me on the Patreon page is all I gotta say. All right, so let's dig right into this card. Let's get into the quick picks. Start off with Trevor Smith versus Makhmud Muradov. I got Makhmud. Verna Jandiroba versus Mallory Martin. Mallory Martin coming in on short notice, so I'm going with Verna. Not obviously because of that, but super talented girl. Joe Selecki over Matt Wyman. Matt Sales over Bryce Mitchell. Billy Quarantillo versus over Jacob Kilburn. Tim Means over Thiago Alves, though that's a fight I'd stay away from strictly due to the gruesome injury that Tim Means is coming back from. Ricky Simone over Rob Font. And that pretty much leads us to our main card. So, Cody Stamann versus Yadong Song, first fight on the card, on the main card at least. I hope that these stay intact, at least the order of these fights stay intact. But the first fight should be a barn burner in terms of Yadong Song versus Cody Stamann. Great fight. Stylistically, very fun. I'm super excited to see how it plays out. The odds are currently minus 200 for Yadong Song, plus 170 on Cody Stamann. Let's start off with Yadong Song. This guy's been a prodigy ever since he came into the UFC. 15-4 record. Was riding a 3-fight winning streak before coming over to the UFC, and since then has finished 3 out of 4 guys. Most recently, absolutely annihilating Alejandro Perez in the first round back in July. I love what the guy has to bring to the table. He is very, very aggressive with his striking. He loves throwing a right hook with the lead uppercut. He strikes just as well moving backwards as he does moving forward. He throws a lot of power, and he trains at Team Alpha Male, so you know that he's constantly working on his wrestling and his grappling, which is probably going to be his Achilles heel in this fight. Not saying that Cody Stamann is going to be able to, discover and exploit that Achilles heel of Yadong Song, but I think that that's where the discrepancy is. I think that Yadong has much higher striking proficiency and is much better and more aggressive. But I think that Cody Stamann will have the advantage with the grappling. I just don't know if he's going to be able to get this fight to the ground. In that Alejandro Perez fight, we saw him struggle often. His timing was very much on point when he was trying to get Perez to the ground. However, he just was not able to complete the takedowns. He was very close at certain points, but Perez did a good job of keeping the fight on the feet. I have seen Yadong Song in the fight against Felipe Aranches, being pushed against the cage, being, having takedowns attempted on him, but he was never really taken down. So, I think he's only getting better, and obviously working at Team Alpha Male, they're constantly drilling that in him. His striking is down. He shows absolutely no hesitation when it comes to trading in the pocket or even throwing heaters for punches. It's crazy the amount of damage this guy has taken in his career. He's only 21, if I'm not mistaken. Then again, we have no idea how old this guy is. He's born in 97 according to Tapology, but you don't know with these fighters who like to sometimes hide their age. Considering he's had 19 fights, only being 22 years old, Cody Stamann coming in with 20 fights, and he himself is, how old is he? He's 30 years old. So he has 8 years on top of him, but he's only, 1 fight ahead of Yadong Song. It's crazy. But Cody Stamann, he is known as a wrestler, but his striking is not bad either. Against Alejandro Perez, he showed a great lead left hook. It really made Alejandro Perez hesitant in terms of coming forward and trying to implement his own game. And then whenever Alejandro Perez was able to open up a little bit, Cody Stamann did a great job of changing levels and getting in on his hips and threatening for takedowns. Even though he wasn't successful in getting those takedowns, he was still making it hard for Perez to implement his game, which allowed Cody Stamann to get away with the unanimous decision victory there. In his Aljamain Sterling fight, he was just out-grappled there. Aljamain Sterling was the better grappler, the much stronger grappler, and the better BJJ fighter as well, which ended up him getting a knee bar in that fight. But he's had a pretty tough road. Tom Duquesnoy, who was a great prospect back in 2017, Brian Caraway, who was up there at a point in time, and then obviously losing to Aljamain Sterling, and then rebounding with a victory over Alejandro Perez. this is a tough fight to choose. Coming into this, I was expecting to be backing Cody Stamann at dog odds, especially at plus 170. I think there is some value on him there, but I'm not 100% sure of how he's going to react when Yadong Song is actually, stuffing some of his takedowns and then hitting him with shots, trading in the pocket and not being as scared, or I should say, or as hesitant as Alejandro Perez was to throw strikes. So this is also the first time that we're actually going to see Yadong Song up against a legitimate D1 wrestler. So even though he's working with Team Alpha Male, it's a different thing when he goes in there and fights a guy as good as Cody Stamann. I think the odds should be closer to like minus 170-ish, minus 175 for Yadong Song. So honestly, I'm going to pass on this fight, and just with the question marks in terms of how he actually deals in fight with a guy who has D1 wrestling to the level of Cody Stamann, it's keeping me away from this fight. I'm not mad at anybody taking the shot at Yadong Song at the minus 200-ish range. I think he was at the minus 300-ish range at a certain point, and that was just far too wide. So, touche to anybody that was able to pick up Cody Stamann in the plus 240-ish, plus 230-ish area. But I think it should be closer to minus 170, minus 175 for Song. But it's a fight that I'm going to stay away from. Just too many question marks for me to confidently pull a trigger here. So I definitely I'm going to take Yadong Song to win. I think he's going to stuff those takedowns from Stamann, land the bigger shots, harder shots, and just wear on Stamann, which is kind of tough because Stamann's a guy that I was big on coming into the UFC, and I just love the style that he had coming into this, especially mixed with his D1 wrestling. But when you're coming up against a guy like Yadong Song who shows zero fear to trade in the pocket and, very athletic, throws heat in almost everything, and also trains at Team Alpha Male and is working on his ground game and his grappling, it's a tough test for a guy like Cody Stamann. So I'm taking Yadong Song probably to win by decision here, maybe even a third round KO, but very, very tough fight, and I can't confidently bet either side, which is why I'll be passing on this fight, but I'll be picking Yadong Song to win. All right, next up, Aspen Ladd versus Yana Kunitskaya. Odds currently sitting at minus 155 for Aspen Ladd, plus 135 for Yana Kunitskaya. Starting off with Aspen Ladd, this is actually going to be one of the lock of the night plays that I was considering. I love Aspen Ladd style. Forward moving at all times, grapple heavy, great cardio, can push the pace from bell to bell. The only knack that I have with her is her lack of striking. Jermaine Durandamy put her out, not really put her out, but finished her in 16 seconds. But she eats way too many shots for my liking. Sijara Eubanks was landing quite a lot. Lena Landsberg was landing quite a lot, but it all came down to Aspen Ladd imposing her will, moving forward, eating those shots, still getting takedowns, still getting better positions, and still winning. Yana Kunitskaya on the other end, she's a kickboxer turned grappler almost. In her last couple fights against Marion Renault and Lena Landsberg, she was able to ride these fights out and win strictly off of wrestling. She clearly lost that third round to Marion Renault, where she was getting battered on the feet. But I think that was in part to do with the fact that she was starting to suck wind a little bit. So I do definitely like Aspen Ladd to win here. Minus 155 is not a bad price tag either, and she was hovering around the minus 145-ish range for a little while too. My only concern is her striking. Yana, I think she has the ability to kind of not stick and move, but like land good shots, rack up some points, even if Aspen Ladd is continuously moving forward. But I think that once Aspen Ladd's kind of clasp her hands behind Yana, she'll be able to drag her to the ground, and she'll always be one step ahead of her when it comes to the jiu-jitsu. Say what you want about Yana Kunitskaya, arm barring Tanya Evinger, even though it got turned over to a no contest. Yes, she is quite active off of her back, but I would give Aspen Ladd the edge when it comes to jiu-jitsu. She's always one step ahead of her opponents. It's crazy when she's going up against girls like Sijara Eubanks, trying to threaten for a choke, an arm triangle, or whatever it is. And then knowing she doesn't have it, she starts moving her hips, she starts moving her legs, and starting to get those positions back, like in terms of a full mount, a dominant position, considering that she'll probably be losing on the submission. So she's very smart when it comes to the grappling aspects. I'm not concerned that Sijara Eubanks was able to take her down right off the bat and win that first round against her. Yana Kunitskaya might be able to do the same thing, but I think she's going to have a lot of trouble keeping Aspen Ladd down, keeping a dominant position against Aspen Ladd, and then, trying to win the next 2 rounds. It's going to be very tough for me to see how Yana Kunitskaya does that. Unless she like finds her striking self like she was, before she came into Invicta and the UFC. It's tough for me to see a path to victory for Yana Kunitskaya other than her squeaking out 2 rounds, which I just don't see. Just the style of Aspen Ladd to consistently come forward and consistently push the pressure and push the pace. It's nonsensical for me to think that Yana Kunitskaya actually wins this fight. If anybody thinks that she's going to knock out Aspen Ladd, tough luck. Germaine Durandamy put Aspen Ladd down, but she wasn't actually out, and she's never been finished. Like, that was her only loss on her record. Yana Kunitskaya doesn't hit like a fucking Germaine Durandamy either, so it's tough for me to see a scenario where Yana actually pulls out the victory here. I think forward pressure, constant grappling, constant pressure from Aspen Ladd is going to get her the victory. And I think she wins this fight via decision. I think she's going to out-grapple Yana, maybe even get a 3rd round finish. I'm not 100% sure, but I definitely like Aspen Ladd to win. She's still in the running for a possible lock of the night play for me. Even though her striking is a little bit of a concern, but it's I love this spot for Aspen Ladd. Plain and simple. I love this spot for Aspen Ladd. And I'm going to be taking her to win. I would say it officially by decision, and there is still a possibility that she could be a lock of the night play for me, but we'll see. Aspen Ladd by decision. All right, next fight, Stefan Struve versus Ben Rothwell. For as long as you guys have been following me, you guys should know that I love betting against Stefan Struve and love picking against the guy, but I don't know if this is the spot for us. I said it the last time as well against Rogerio de Lima. I passed on that fight as well, and thankfully I did. Stefan Struve comes out there and gets the victory via arm triangle choke. But Ben Rothwell, man, very, very much disappointed me against Andrei Arlovski when he fought him back in... When was that fight? July 20th, he lost that. And believe it or not, Ben Rothwell is riding a 3-fight losing streak. Junior Dos Santos, Blago Ivanov in a fight that I thought he actually won, and then Andrei Arlovski. So tough test for both guys here. Ben Rothwell has a lot to prove. He went on in that Andrei Arlovski fight and just got completely outworked. Andrei Arlovski was putting on the pace on him, landing more strikes, moving more. Ben Rothwell was just, he has this herky-jerky weird style about him, but he's still... he just wasn't throwing enough. He wasn't throwing effectively enough to get the judge's nod there. And Andrei Arlovski did a lot better than Ben Rothwell in that fight, obviously via, him losing that fight. In this fight against Stefan Struve, the funniest thing about fucking Stefan Struve, if you guys watch that De Lima fight again, literally the first punch De Lima throws, he lands on Struve and fucking drops him and then rides out the rest of the round on top of him. Insane to me. Like, this guy has the craziest fucking reach and is still like how many fights, how many years into his UFC career? Let's see. He made his UFC debut back in 2009. He's been in the UFC over 10 and a half years, closing in on 11. February 2020 will be 11 years that Stefan Struve has been in the UFC, yet still has no idea how to fucking use his range, how to use his jab, how to keep the distance between him and his opponent. And he continuously pays for it. So I think Ben Rothwell will have absolutely no issues landing on Stefan Struve here. I think that Struve is going to have a little bit of issues with trying to get Ben Rothwell down, trying to hurt Ben Rothwell. I don't see Stefan Struve pulling in Andrei Arlovski and trying to out-volume this guy here. I think he's going to have trouble, implementing his game. And I think that Rothwell, with his herky-jerky style, will have a lot of success, hitting Stefan Struve to the body. He showed decent leg kicks against Andrei Arlovski. Apologies. But again, I don't know how much Ben Rothwell has really regressed. He looked decent in the Blago Ivanov fight, but it was still far too close. And then he just showed even more regression in that fight against Arlovski. Even at the regressed states, I still would pick Ben Rothwell to win here, which I am still going to do. And that, the odds being at minus 140 for Ben Rothwell, it's whispering to me. It's saying, hey, bet me. You know how much you like to hate, and bet against Stefan Struve and Ben Rothwell. But I'm like, no, with the fucking stretch that I've been on, this is too much of a risk for me. There are too many unknowns for me to willingly put money on Ben Rothwell to beat Stefan Struve here. And man, it hurts. It really fucking hurts to not bet against Stefan Struve here, against a guy that I think is more than capable in Ben Rothwell. But just considering his last performance, it's got me a little bit iffy. So I'm gonna stay away from this fight betting wise. At most, I might put Ben Rothwell in my Hail Mary parlay. But overall, I'll stay away from this fight, and I am going to take Ben Rothwell to win by decision. Stefan Struve is just he'll beat a guy like Marcos, De Lima, and he's lucky he didn't get knocked out in that first punch that De Lima landed on him. But I'm definitely taking Ben Rothwell to win here. I think he'll just eke out the decision. A legitimate unanimous decision. I think he'll win. And Stefan Struve hopefully probably hangs it up, or even Bellator comes a call and they get him over there, because that will be, he won his last fight. And this could be also Ben Rothwell's last fight in the UFC too. If he falters against Stefan Struve, that's a very bad look, and that's 4 straight losses too. So I don't know if he'll want to hang it up after this. He's currently sitting at 38, and Stefan Struve is 31. So, maybe Stefan Struve doesn't have to hang it up here. Maybe he can just go to Bellator, but we don't know about Ben Rothwell. But regardless, I am picking Ben Rothwell to win by decision, just not confident in him. But bet at your own risk. All right, let's move on to the co-main event. People were giving this fight flack for being the co-main event. Cynthia Calvillo versus Marina Rodriguez. I love the fight. Both women are very, very entertaining. A little bit of contrast of styles here as well. Let's see what the odds are real quick. Marina Rodriguez minus 130, Cynthia Calvillo at plus 110. So let's start off with Marina Rodriguez. I believe I had a lock of the night play on Tecia Torres in her last fight. And she went out there and absolutely murdered fucking Tecia Torres. I will never take it away from Marina Rodriguez. She has great striking. She is very fun to watch. She has this, she has that old school Yana vibe about her, where she just has this killer instinct in her, and she throws with absolute ruthless abandon. So I love her in that aspect. Cynthia Calvillo in her last fight comes out there and tries to be a striker, throws a couple wrestling, a couple takedowns, attempts against Courtney Casey, but doesn't really finish anything there. So decides to, mainly focus on the striking, and then she, easily outstrikes Courtney Casey. But you don't want to have that type of game plan coming in here against Marina Rodriguez. If she keeps this fight on the feet, I think it's Marina Rodriguez's fight. No problems. Calvillo showed great leg kicks in her fight, some good combinations. She still has some technical things that she needs to work on against, just with her striking alone. But her grassroots, her bread and butter is her grappling. She has amazing grappling. Her transitions are insane. Her submissions are insane. She's just one of the best, I'd say top 3 girls in terms of grappling in that division. But that just depends on how bad she really wants to get this fight to the ground. I think she's going to have a little bit of trouble getting this fight against Marina Rodriguez to the ground. Rodriguez was taken down by Ronda Marcos in that first round of their fight, was pretty much handled for that. And it was kind of sad, she was taken down with a head and arm throw, which is kind of the weakest takedown that you can have, but seems to work quite often in women's MMA. But I think she's kind of, worked that out. I don't think those are the type of takedowns that we'll see from Cynthia Calvillo here. I think that we'll see her actually go for, legitimate single legs, double legs, probably try to push Rodriguez up against the cage and try to take her back. She did try that against Courtney Casey, didn't have the best success, but I think she's really going to have to make Rodriguez work, use the leg kick, stay on Rodriguez, make it a hard, tough fight. Don't let Rodriguez get comfortable, moving forward and settling into her striking patterns. If Calvillo, which I think she's more than capable of, I really like her, her movement, her striking. It's decent, it's good enough to get by. But if she just 100% relies on her striking like she did against Courtney Casey, she's going to lose this fight. And she might seem like a numbnut at times, but I think that she's smart enough to know that she's not going to go out there and outstrike a girl like Marina Rodriguez. Courtney Casey is a different case. That girl is not the greatest striker. She's just not the greatest fighter in general. But Marina Rodriguez could legitimately strike. So I'm gonna fuck. This one's really tough, and the line's really close. And I have been tempted to possibly play the underdog odds on Cynthia Calvillo, but I've seen such good improvements from Marina Rodriguez that's making me tough to bet or even pick Cynthia Calvillo here. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to feel come Friday, which is why you guys should go over to the Patreon and always watch my Friday thoughts, since sometimes they do change throughout fight week. But as of today, I'm going to have to go with Cynthia Calvillo. Rodriguez has shown great, improvements. The Tisha Torres fight, after watching it, it was pretty much a tailor-made fight for her. Torres just had no answer for closing the distance. But I think that Calvillo is going to be able to mix it up with her grappling a little bit better. It has been over 2 years since, just over a year since Rana Marcos was able to get that easy takedown against Marina Rodriguez, and Rodriguez has shown immense improvement since that fight. But I think that Calvillo is a different animal. Mix up her foot movement with her takedown entries. I think that she'll be a little bit more successful. She may not be able to land those takedowns, but it may make Marina Rodriguez a little bit more skeptical to actually throw some of her strikes, get comfortable in her striking stances. And I think Calvillo could eventually maybe get this fight to the ground in the second or third round, which would make things a little bit interesting. Would she be able to get the submission? Probably. She's that good at it. So I'll take Calvillo by third round submission, but fuck. I'll see if I get back into this fight and if I can drop a tidbit for you guys later in the week. But as of right now, I like Calvillo to win. But just very hesitant to pull the trigger, even at the plus money that you're getting at with Cynthia Calvillo. Rodriguez is a bad bitch, and she's rightfully the favorite here. But I'm liking Calvillo to take the upset, but not 100% sure if I would bet her. So Calvillo by a third round submission, but very, very tough fight to pick here. All right, let's go to our main event of the evening: Alistair Overeem versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Very, very excited for this fight. I was excited for the Walt Harrison Overeem fight, but unfortunate shit happened. And Streps Rozenstruik, couple weeks notice too. He just knocked out Andrei Arlovski back at UFC 244 at the beginning of November. So he's really, really trying to stay active. In 2019 alone, he made his UFC debut and then fought 3 times, knocking out Junior Albini in the second round, knocking out Alan Crowder with a jab in 9 seconds, and then putting out Andrei Arlovski with the counter left hook in 30 seconds. Insane. Absolutely insane work that we've seen from Rozenstruik, the little bit we've seen of him. Overeem, on the other hand, is coming off of 2 victories, both first-round finishes over Sergey Pavlovich and Alexei Oleinik. Took his time to find his groove in those fights, and then eventually went for the finishes later in the first round. But this is a very, very interesting matchup, strictly due to the fact that they're both high-level kickboxers, high-level strikers, but the difference is the grappling, the submissions, and the ground game here. Alistair Overeem, what is that? He's at 50 to 62. This is going to be a 63rd MMA fight, and he's had numerous amounts of submissions. Not as much in the UFC, but pre-UFC, he definitely put it on guys and really showed his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in his top game. But I think that even though we haven't seen him pull off submissions recently, I think he's still going to have success against Rozenstruik here. So it's pretty easy. You either get Rozenstruik to knock Alistair Overeem out within the first round or so, or Overeem eventually gets this fight to the ground. Even if he gets in the first round, I think Rozenstruik has shown that he's a fish out of water when he gets to the ground, just as he showed in that Junior Albini fight. It's more so how shit Albini was, which is why he wasn't able to finish him, compared to how good Rozenstruik was in terms of actually getting up and finishing him. I think if Overeem gets him down, Rozenstruik's not getting up. And I think Overeem is going to be able to either, land big shots from on top or go for work for a submission. But either way, he's going to find the finish on the ground here. I'd be very, very surprised to see Alistair Overeem try to trade in the pocket here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him play it a little bit safer in the first maybe first half round, maybe 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. He plays it a little bit safe. And we see Rozenstruik maybe overextend on some punches a little bit, try to catch Overeem. And that might be the times where Overeem finds the takedown, gets him down, and then pounds him out. this is an easy fight for both guys in terms of what they should be doing to get the victory here, to secure the victory. Rozenstruik got to knock him out. Overeem's got to get him down. I don't know which one is going to happen, but I am very, 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 very happy with the fact that we are getting the under 2.5. At five times, it's minus 140, but last time I checked on Pinnacle, it was minus 120. And that is probably going to be my lock of the night play. I got burnt on the under 2.5 in the last event with Ahoyo and Muniz. But here, man, it just seems like a gift. Like, I am surprised that it's that much. We may have seen Overeem play it safe a little bit in the past where he's taking guys down and played it a little bit safer. But with Rozenstruik, I don't think he's going to do that. I think that Rozenstruik is going to try to take his head off in that first round. If he's not able to, Overeem's going to be able to get him down and find the submission or find the ground and pound easily past Rozenstruik's guard. No issues. I don't see Rozenstruik offering anything off of his back. Albini was just horrible. He got Rozenstruik down twice without much resistance, to be honest. And I think that Overeem will have much more success if he's really trying for takedowns, especially with working with Team Elevation and Curtis Blades. They've definitely refined his entries and his takedowns and his top position. And I think it's going to show in spades here. As soon as Overeem sees the opening for that takedown, I think that's what we're going to see from him. And then he's going to easily work from there, possibly get a first round TKO. Maybe he's a la that Sergey Pavlovich fight. We're always going to get Overeem at these very close odds due to the fact that there's always his chin issue. And I believe he still does have a chin issue, which is why I'm not comfortable betting Alistair Overeem here. But I am more than comfortable betting the under 1.5. It's kind of a gift, minus 120 here. I'm kind of split between Aspen Lad and the under 1.5 in this fight. I'm more than likely thinking that I'm going to do 4 units at minus 120 on the under 1.5 here. Not the full 5 and not the lowest of the 3.5 units that I would normally do for a lock of the night play. But I think 4 units is proper. More than enough value here. I expected it closer to be like minus 180, minus 200 under 1.5, but minus 120 is a fucking gift. Like, you got to be kidding me. I was very, very surprised that that's what the line is at. So I think that any possibility that this fight has will play out under the 7.5 minute mark. No doubt about it. Especially with Rozenstruik coming in on short notice. And he didn't have that long of a fight against Arlovsky either, but we have seen from his fights that he wants to get fights done quickly and as quickly as possible. Just even looking at his record, he's only been to a decision once at Rizin 10 back in 2018, but all of his other fights, first round, second round, 54 seconds into the second round against Junior Albini, 9 seconds against Alan Crowder, 30 seconds against Andrei Arlovsky. It might go like into the 3 or 4 or maybe, the 4-ish minute mark of the first round, but that's when we'll start to see Overeem open up, get the takedowns for sure. I would be surprised if we hit the 3.5 to 4 minute mark of this round, of the first round, and we don't see Overeem land a takedown. That would be very, very surprising to me, because by that point, he must have been able to find some sort of entry or some sort of takedown to get Jairzinho down. And then from there, it's going to be easy work from him, in my opinion. I am absolutely writing off Rozenstruik's game off of his back. I don't believe in it at all. And we saw that in the Junior Albini fight. If Overeem had him in those positions, there was no way he was getting up, nor was he going to survive any of the bombs that Overeem was going to be throwing from on top too. So minus 120, even minus 140, which is at 5 times, fucking gift. Jump on this shit. That is a lock of the night play. I hate proclaiming that that's a lock of the night play, but I am all over that. I will probably play it or decide between Aspen Lad and this line probably in the next day or two. But I want to be a little bit quicker just in case I missed that minus 120 at Pinnacle. But yeah, under 1.5 here. I'll take Overeem to win by ground and pound first round or even submission, but I'm expecting him to get the victory in the first round here and fucking cash this shit, baby. Got to get back on the horse. Got to get this W under my belt. And I think that this is 2 perfect opportunities for lock of the night plays. Hopefully I've picked the correct one. And then also my dog of the night play will probably be either Calvillo or something on the undercard that I haven't really gotten into, but I will probably get into for my Patreon members as a Lock-Cast Plus episode. So make sure you guys check that out. So that's pretty much it for this episode. It's nice to finally get back in the recording chair. Next week, I'll be back at Big Rob's place to record UFC 245 podcast with a guest as well that I'll be Skyping in, hopefully, or calling in, whatever the fuck it is. So make sure you guys check that out. Website, MMALOTN.ca. The Lock of the Night Challenge registrations have opened up for 2020. So for 2020, we're going to be doing from January 1st all the way to June 30th. The UFC hasn't released their full first half of 2020 schedule yet, but that will definitely, it will cover all 6 months. We're doing $25 buy-in as well as $100 buy-in for two different games. This first one has been a success so far. We got 3 events left. Still some time for people to, move around in the standings and get themselves into the money, into the top 3. So make sure you guys check that out. Hit me up if you guys want to sign up. DM me at MMALOTN on Twitter. I'll give you guys all the information you guys need and then get you guys signed up. And also, if you guys sign up before December 21st, which is the South Korea card, if you guys sign up before then, you guys will be eligible to win either a MMA Lock of the Night shirt or a mug where I have MMA quotes on them. I have 2 of them left. One of them says, Thug Rose, Thug Rose, Thug Rose. And then the other one says, I can rest my balls on your forehead. Shout out to anybody who knows who said that and who they said it to, because that's a fucking MMA quote for the ages. But yeah, that's the podcast for today. Appreciate you guys checking it out. Subscribe to the channel, like the podcast or like it. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you guys disagree. Continue to shit on me for the shit record that I've been on recently. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still here. And check out the Patreon as well. Patreon.com/MMALOTN. I'll be dropping a special Locked-In episode next week for the pay-per-view just for my Patreon members. But there will also be a Locked-In episode coming out this week and next week for our YouTube viewers. So make sure you guys check that out. Other than that, I'm out. And I'll see you guys next week. Peace.